name is Peter Parford and welcome to this second video about my Bessey clamps. Now, a number of you who saw the first video where I featured the Bessey K-body Revos have asked me if I'd show a few of my other clamps in a little bit more detail. So here we go. I'm going to show you the Uniklamp. I'm going to show you the EZS one-handed clamp. I'm going to show you these beautiful Kliklamps, and I'm also going to show the toggle clamp. Now, the way the toggle clamp works is very simple. Basically, there's a lever here, and then when you close the lever down, there's a toggle action, and this part comes down and grips whatever it is you're trying to clamp. Now, the beauty of the Bessey toggle clamps is that you can put things of varying thickness under there. So you don't need to adjust anything else, you just put whatever piece you want underneath there. And these are great if you've got lots of different operations to do on one piece of wood, loads and loads of time, and you've got to keep moving it around, reclamping it, and so on, whatever it might be. Or if you've got lots of individual pieces of wood, you want to quickly bring them to the bench and do something with them. Now, one of the issues that people say they have with toggle clamps is how do you fix them to the bench? There are a whole bunch of different ways, and this might be one way, is to mount them on a block, and then you take a clamp and then fix that to your bench, and then off you go, and you're holding your piece of wood again. Another way might be to screw it to your bench, and you have it in a particular part of the bench where it's useful to you. Now, this one is screwed to my bench, so I can move my bits of wood up to where they have to be and lock them off. And what I've done here is I've used these screw inserts which I've screwed into my bench top, and these allow a machine screw. In my case, these are 6mm screws to screw into them, and you can screw these in and out as many times as you like, so there's a great advantage using these rather than wood screws. And these are cheap and cheerful, easy to get hold of. Screw inserts. Now, if you're one of the growing number of people that has the Festool MFT3 workbench, then you can get yourselves one of these clamps from Festool. And all you then do is you slide this up from underneath and make sure that goes over the flange of the toggle clamp, and then close that up. And now that is perfectly satisfactory for most purposes. And if you feel you need to have a clamp on both sides, then all you do is you put one up from either side, one through there, like so, and another one through the hole on this side, like so, and away you go. And so that's now perfectly possible to use that with no problem whatsoever. And if you have the MFT3 but you have not got any of these Festool clamps, then fear not. Do what I've done, and I've got hold of an old clamp. This is my very first Bessey clamp I ever bought, and I think it must now be over 20 years old. And what I did was I took it up to the bench grinder and just smoothed off the end here, which allows that to come off. You can then drop that through like so, feed the other part in from underneath, tighten it up, and away you go. You're clamping again. So there are all sorts of options available to you. Now, one of the things you have to be very careful of is using a miter saw when you're cutting really small pieces of wood. And it's far better to have some form of jig or arrangement for holding your piece of wood in place, so that then you can operate the saw safely. And you can do these sort of cuts time and time again very safely and very accurately. And with my jig, this can be moved to suit your work, and it can be put on the other side of the machine if necessary. And if at the end of the day you need to use the clamp for something else, you've just got to undo 4 screws and away you go. And this is just a scrap piece of wood. And of course the key thing to remember about the Bessey toggle clamps is that they will fit different thicknesses without any need to adjust them. If you want to get them gripping even more tightly, then you can adjust this screw here, which then allows you to get an extra bit of grip. Or conversely, if you have something delicate that you wish to clamp, then you can slacken this off a bit and it will grip it more gently. So all in all, very versatile and a very nicely engineered piece of kit. Now we all know how frustrating it can be when you're trying to do something reasonably accurately and then you just keep on, oh dear. What you need is something that you can use with one hand. And this is the answer. And this clamp you can use one-handed. It's absolutely brilliant. And all you do is you get your piece of wood set up in the position you want, and then whilst you're still holding it in place with one hand, you are then tightening the clamp with the other, like so. And so you're away to go. Good stuff. And then a quick release and you're done. Now this is the EZS one-handed clamp, and the beauty of it is that it just closes up as you would expect any one-handed clamp to do very easily, and then when you're squeezing you can exert a force of up to 2,000 newtons, which is equivalent to about 200 kilograms sitting on your toe. And to release, you just press this little lever here and it's released. But it doesn't end there, because this clamp can be reversed. You simply undo the head here, take it off and turn it round. And so rather than now having this as a traditional clamp, and you take the pin out here, I'll put it there carefully, and you then slide this off and slide it back on at this end, and there was no fuss, there's no little levers or pins to get in the way. That went very easily, and suddenly you find yourself with a tool, a one-handed tool for pushing. And putting it back together again is very simple. There and here, and it's back as it should be. And this pin just gets reinserted back in there. So, what else about this clamp? Well, I've discovered that, don't do this at home children, you can take it apart. This is so typical of Bessey. There are 2 lots of springs and there are 2 lots of these plates, and so therefore as you're moving up, both plates are gripping the bar, and there's no way this clamp will slip, and in time it's not going to start wearing the bars smooth or anything. This is built to last. So there you are, built to last. It's a lovely piece of engineering. Good stuff. Well done, Mr. Bessey. Now, it's no secret that I'm a little bit arthritic, and I find some types of movements quite difficult to do. And that's why when I saw these clamps at a show not so long ago, I was rather taken by them. Now, these are the Kliklamps, and they're very light, only about 260 grams, yet they're very strong. And they can exert a clamping force of up to 1200 newtons, which is about 120 kilos sitting on your toe. They get their lightness from the fact that these parts are made of magnesium alloy, and this part is made of glass reinforced plastic. The shaft here is the normal Bessey high quality steel. And what I like about them is the ease at which you can use them. That's it. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. And they come in 6 sizes from 120 millimeters all the way up to 400 millimeters, and that gives you plenty of scope to find the clamps that suit your needs. But I find these absolutely brilliant, and you've seen me in previous videos struggling with loads and loads of little clamps. Well, I'm going to quietly save up and buy myself one or two of these every time I go to a show or to a good DIY shop. So, excellent. And finally we have the Uniklamp, which is a smaller version of the K-body clamp. It's got soft faces, parallel clamping action, and it can deliver a clamping force of up to 1500 newtons, and that's the equivalent of 150 kilograms on your toe. They come in three sizes. There's the 160 millimeters, and these are distances measured between the faces. There's the 300, which I have here, and there's also a 600. And for me, they're absolutely ideal for doing my boxes because they're lightweight, they have this parallel action, which is important when you're doing box work, soft faces, and they're extremely easy to use. Now, if you need to, you can use these as in the reverse mode for pushing. You just take off this plastic clip at the end, slide it off, turn it round, and then you have a push between that face there and this face, which is then that way. So quite a versatile little clamp, and with 1500 newtons, it's quite a powerful little beast as well. Now, if you look at my video on the K-body Revo, I told you that on the shafts there are 6 separate surfaces which are serrated, and that means that as you move the body of the clamp up and down and start to tighten, it's going to grip really well to that shaft. Well, the same is true with the Uniklamp. There are also 6 surfaces on this clamp, and so the same feature is brought from the large one to the smaller one. And it's also true for these Kliklamps, because they have 6 surfaces and they're all serrated, which means that no longer will you ever experience the body of the clamp sliding upwards as you're trying to tighten. It will always grip first time. Someone also asked me about these racks that I've made for the clamps, and I'll show some pictures on the screen now so you can see them in more detail. This one is just a straight piece of oak which has got some slots cut in using the Festool Domino 500. They're 8mm slots, and it makes clamps like this fit in very easily. This one, slightly more complicated, big piece of wood at the back, and then using again the Festool Domino 500, I've used domino joints between here and these pieces of oak, and then there's a little lip on there which is just glued and nail gunned on, which stops them falling forward. And so, very simple. Now, I built up my collection of Bessey clamps over 20 years, and I'm still adding to them slowly but surely. And I hope by showing you these 4 different types of clamp that it'll give you some ideas of what Bessey clamps might be useful to you. The toggle clamp, I absolutely love it. It's so useful, particularly if you're trying to do those tiny cuts on your miter saw and you want to protect your fingers. Excellent. One-handed clamping, you need that. Everybody needs one-handed clamping. These Kliklamps, they're beautiful. I've only got 4. Next time I go to a show, I'll buy a couple of more and a couple of more until I've got a bigger collection. They are superb. And the Uniklamp, well, if you're doing small work like boxes, like as I am, then these are absolutely ideal, light and easy to use. I hope all this has been useful to you, and I wish you the very best of luck building up your Bessey collection. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.